marked out for us. Verse 1. You ever feel like you're running on empty? The older I get, the closer I feel like my gas tank might be getting close to empty. I got to stop and fill it up. You can't run a car forever. When the car says you're on empty, what do you got to do? I've run out of gas a few times. I know by the hard experience of running out of gas on the side of the road and walking to the gas station, getting the gas can and having to walk back. I remember now, when it gets empty, you better stop and fill up your tank. It's only happened a few times, but it was enough to teach me I can't run my life on empty. Can you? And we should. There's a lot of people out there, they're running their life too close to the empty sign because they don't look, verse 2, let's fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter. He's going to make everything exactly as it should be. If you keep your eyes on Him, if I keep my eyes on the Lord, if we trust in Him all the way, if we know He's got a plan and a purpose, and that we need to continue the fight. Life sometimes feels like we're fighting. I don't like to fight, you don't like to fight, but that's how it feels. That's what it is. It's a battle. Or as Paul says here, it's a race, a contest. The race marked out for us, verse 1, and we've got, if we don't finish, we don't get the crown. So how do we make it? How do we get by? Well, it's not only keep our eyes on Jesus, verse 2, but remember who's cheering us on. Remember the witnesses. If we could split apart the ceiling of our church right now and make that connection and see those loved ones, what do you think they're doing? I bet they're parting the clouds all the time to look down and say, hey, remember I'm with you. Remember I love you. Remember through Jesus Christ I'm still intimate in your life and connected. I'm still cheering you on. And I kind of remember that about my parents. Hopefully you had some good parents. Not everybody has great parents these days because life can get pretty messed up, but that's one thing that never leaves me is the power and the godly teaching and the love of my parents. It's with me every day, right? If you had good parents, you know what I mean. It's like they put their mark on you, and you can't get away from it, and that's just part of who you are. And that's the continual witnessing that they're still pouring into your life and mine, these great witnesses. And I don't know who they are, I don't know what their names are, in most cases, but you do. You know it in your heart. You know it in your life. You know they're still watching you. You know when you make a mistake. I still hear my mother say, Gary, don't do that. And my mother, by the way, she was a mother. When I was in my 50s, she was still telling me how to do this and how to do that. Mom, you know how that is, right? Dad, maybe not as much as Mom, but they're still talking to us. In our hearts, in our lives, still egging us on, encouraging us, get to the end. Don't give up. Keep looking to Jesus. I'm so glad that these witnesses that love us, that have made us, touched our lives, are still there. They haven't gone anywhere. They're still there as real and as wonderful and as caring and as encouraging as they ever were when they were in your life, when they were here. Now let me add some more icing on the cake, if I may. Not only is Jesus encouraging you, close to you, faithful to you, giving you life and giving you eternal life and fulfilling all the promises personally that He has intended for you before you were born. Now you're here, He's working on you. And all these witnesses are doing all the same in the name of the Lord. But there is something else, another wonderful agency of the power of God in Jesus Christ that I just love, that's at Hebrews 1:14. Turn to Hebrews 1:14. And by the way, if you're wondering, what is your point this morning, Gary? Good question. This whole sermon, I hope, is a word of great encouragement so that we can be lifted up on high as we enter the unknown, which is today, tomorrow, and forever, the rest of our life. That we can see a little bit of light if we need some light this morning to walk into Monday tomorrow. And the things that we don't know, that the mystery of life, that the unknown, that we don't know that what faces us, or what's coming, or how we're going to handle it. This is encouragement from the great encourager himself, Jesus Christ. It's his plan, his power, and what's going on, and how God has laid it all out in every level of our existence and our life to encourage you and me to do what we must do, to live this life successfully. To live this life successfully. Now, so what I want to share this morning as we get ready to close is Hebrews 1:14. So not only do we have our loved ones who are still influencing, empowering, and watching over us to get us through, but Jesus Christ, who is also there in all his glory and authority and strength for us. But what about God's not done? Hebrews 1:14, are not all angels, plural, by the way, not just one angel. I don't know how many angels there are in that angels, angels, ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation. Now, who do you think is the person, the people that are inheriting salvation? If you raise your hand, you got it right. And I hope you all know that. You're the ones that are being spoken of and promised by God in Hebrews 1:14. And the answer is, in the NIV, it's a question that we better know the answer to. Hopefully you know the answer. Are not all angels, ministering spirits, sent to serve those, us, who will inherit salvation? So who else do you have to encourage you through this life besides all the great witnesses that have run the race before us? Jesus Christ, the author, the finisher, and perfecter of our life itself, if we continue to look to him, look at him. And we've got angels. Personal responsibility by Jesus Christ sent into your life and mine, an angels, to watch over you, to direct you and encourage you. And I suppose someday when we get to heaven, probably some of the first people we'll meet, if I may call them people, are the angels, our companion angels that were with us every step of the way in our life. And we'll say, oh, I'll call him Michael. He's named in the Bible. I don't know if it's Michael for me, but I'll just call him Michael. So when I get to be with the Lord, one of the first probably presents I'll get is Michael the angel. Oh, Michael. And Michael will say, yeah, I was watching over you every day, every moment. And I'll say, thank you, Michael. I felt your presence, but I didn't really know your name was Michael. You know what I mean? So we got angels. Now, Paul makes a point here and over again in his epistles that we have a responsibility. Life isn't all just sitting back and enjoying the good things, right? We got to give something back. But Paul is so serious about the power of Jesus in his life and using this example, and the setting here in Hebrews chapter 12 is that it's a sports arena, a sports stadium. So whether you cheer for Clemson or Carolina or whoever, you can relate to this. You get pretty excited when your team wins. You want them to win. You're pulling for them. You don't know if they're going to win because you're watching the game. And that's what these spectators are doing. And Paul says, what if we're the ball player down on the field? Now in this case, the sport in the ancient world was running a race, the people who ran track. Paul says this about himself as a Christian. See if this fits in your understanding of who you are as you run the race of life. 1 Corinthians 9, 25 through 27. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. So Paul is saying to get through life, to get through the race, to be a victor, to get to the end line, the goal line, what we need as Christians is a little bit of self-control. We can't just do whatever we want. We can't just let sin reign, right? He says that here too. Excuse me. We've got to practice control, hopefully be controlled by Jesus Christ. We can't just let things go and do whatever we want. To make it to the end and be victorious, to be a winner, we have to, Paul says, I want to have the control, God in Christ controlling all things I do. Where I go, what I say, who I am, everything. I need to let God be in control. Then he says, the next verse, they do it to receive a perishable wreath. It's just kind of a flower crown, or leaf crown actually, of laurel leaves. And that was a big thing in the ancient world. I mean, it's only leaves, but it meant a lot. Well, I do not run, Paul says, aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, like there's nothing to touch or hit. You don't want to, if you're a boxer, that was another great sport in the ancient world. If you're a boxer, you want to beat your opponent. You want to hit him, get him out of the race to be the winner. So Paul's saying, I'm not just punching nothing. I want to box and win by punching my opponent, getting the victory. But I pummel my body and subdue it, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. Now what Paul is suggesting there is, God help me so I don't lose the race, so I don't give up before it's time. I don't drop out of life, this life that you have given me, Lord. Don't let that happen. Make sure, if I keep my eyes on Jesus, that I'll keep going all the way to the finish line. And God provides all kinds of wonderful ways so we each can get there. Now the weight of this world is pretty heavy, and it can really get us down and be such a weight and such a drag that some people can just give up. But we shouldn't do that because we have so much going for us. I'm going to end with a young man named Peter Snell, who was a someone who did foot racing in the Olympics. And I can relate to him because I used to run track in high school, and I'd run the mile, kind of like Peter Snell. He ran the mile in the 1960 World Olympics, and unlike me, I never came in first. I kind of came in the middle. I was never that good or that fast, but I still ran the race. But Peter Snell, he ran the mile and he won the race in 1960. And he was a Christian, by the way. And he said the secret of his victory, he didn't know if he'd win, by the way. I mean, you never know when you compete if you're going to win or not. You don't know until you get to the end. And Peter Snell said, I didn't know if I was going to win, but I was going to do everything I could to win. And the way I was going to win is I would keep, as a Christian, my eyes and my hope and my goal, Jesus Christ, because he wanted me to win all the way. And so Peter Snell, the day of this race in the Olympics, he ran with several other racers. They were neck to neck, and he was a little bit behind. And the man in front of him, he looked down to his left and kept on running. And when he looked down to his left, Peter Snell was able to sprint ahead and win the race. And Peter Snell said, I almost lost the victory. And that gentleman, that guy next to me, he lost because he didn't look ahead. He looked down. But I kept looking ahead. I kept looking at Jesus Christ. No greater goal can that be for any of us than we would do the same, right? I guess the question is, who are we looking as we run the race of life? Do we keep our eyes on Jesus Christ? Isn't that where we should be? Isn't that where our attention, our focus, our very life itself should be directed all the time to Jesus Christ to make sure we reach the end, the goal that God has ordained and promised and holds out for us? Because life really is a race. And we're in the race for our life. And the goal is right ahead of us. Each day gets a little closer. And we've got to make it to the finish line. And by the way, we're going to make it. God promises you're going to make it and I'm going to make it. And the way we do it is to remember the great cloud of witnesses that are cheering us on, but also keep our eyes on Jesus Christ all the way to the end. Because he's keeping his eye, his plan, his power, his resurrection out there. It's in you.